I have another one for y'all today. Something I've been thinking about a lot. I want to read you this verse. This is James chapter 5, verse 16. Confess your faults one to another, and pray one for another, that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. I've found myself saying this, and I've heard other people say it a lot too, but even just recently I found myself saying this phrase, and I never really stopped to think what it really means to say, well, all we can do is pray about it. As if praying about something is something so insignificant, like it is our last resort. And I really want to call myself out on it and really take time to reflect on what I was saying, like downplaying prayer as something so small. How often do we say this when we can't think of our own solution to a problem? Like it's the only thing that we can do. It's the smallest thing we can do. It's the last step we want to take. Like as if we're giving up. Well, I can't fix it, so I guess all we can do is pray about it. But that's the very first thing we should be doing. Prayer isn't something that's small. It is the answer. We pray to God, we talk to Him about it, we go right to the source. We're placing that thing in God's hands. There's a couple more verses I want to read just on this topic. Let us go to Jeremiah, chapter 33, verse 3. Okay. Call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things, which thou knowest not. God hears our prayers. He knows our heart. He knows our needs. If something is in God's will and we place it in His hands, He will see us through that thing. So why do we try so hard sometimes to solve all of our problems on our own? And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't strive to make efforts or make changes or do what we can in life, but it should all include God. Even if it's something that, just getting through the day, motivation for the day, we should still be talking to God. We should be telling Him, what's laying heavy on our minds and on our hearts, what's been bothering us, what we're excited about. You should be talking to God like He's your best friend. And a friend of mine, we were talking about this recently, how important it is to have a relationship with God, to not just go to Him when times are hard, but also, equally important, when things are difficult, to not use Him as a last resort either. And I know you've probably heard this before, and I'm guilty of this too. How many times have we prayed when we're in a time of need or desperation, but we forgot to thank God for bringing that prayer into fruition, for seeing us through a situation, or when He was with us when we didn't even think to pray to Him, but He still was there with us and helped us through a situation. When you pray, when you give it to God, you're saying, God, I trust you. I trust that your will be done, that you know better. This is in your hands. Let's take a look at Matthew. We're going to go to 21. Verse 22. And all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. When you call on God, He doesn't not want to answer your prayers. He doesn't not want to give you what you're asking for. And I want to make a video on this as well. It's something that I've also been thinking about, is that sometimes God answers prayers in ways we don't always expect. Sometimes he answers those prayers right away, and sometimes he doesn't answer them at all. But sometimes no answer is an answer. Sometimes when we ask for something, if it's not good for us, God's not going to give it to us. Or if it's something that we're not ready to actually receive, he's not going to give it to us yet. So it's important to, give it to God. And if it's something that is in his will, is in his power to give us, he knows best, then he'll do it. And kind of similarly to like a parent with a child. Your child may ask you for things that aren't good for them. And it's not that you don't want to give them things that they're asking for, but you're their parent. You know better. That's how God is with us. The last verse that I want to look at is Psalm 37. Okay, we're going to go to verse 5. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. God doesn't want to deny you your heart's desires. He doesn't want to deny you things. But it is important that you bring it to him and that you fully trust in him. Because when we downplay prayer, we're saying, I don't want to wait for this. I'm really impatient. I don't want to let go of control. I don't want to let go of the outcome. And I don't think that God can do enough. And like I said, that's something that I'm calling myself out on personally. And maybe this is something that you've never really experienced. Or maybe you didn't even realize that you were going through. But it's something that I'm thinking about a lot right now because I've caught myself doing this. Just recently, I was in a situation where, I was talking with a family member and we couldn't figure out a solution to this. And I said, well, all we can really do is pray about it. And I didn't think about it till I got home that night. And I was like, all we can do is pray about it. Why would I say that? Like, it's just such an easy expression to use. Like, I've run out of options. I don't know how to fix this. So I guess I'm going to pray about it then. But that should be the very first thing. Because we can't do it on our own. We need God. Nothing is impossible with him. And so that really convicted me and made me quite emotional thinking about it, how quickly I dismiss God's power. Even if I didn't consciously do it that way, I wasn't thinking about it. And I hope that this reaches somebody who maybe, whether it's something they've experienced before or maybe they're going through right now, or maybe something in the future that they may, say something like that casually or hear someone else say it, right? And maybe it'll give pause to stop and reflect because it's something so casually I hear people say and throw around, myself included. But it's so important to think about these things and reflect on them and think about the power of our words. Our trust and faith in God is so important. Our relationship with him. And I think it's just really important to always kind of keep that in the front and center of your mind. And it's so interesting how I do this with so many things where I will immediately go to God, go to God, go to God. But then there's times where I don't even think about it and I say something casually like that, something silly like that, where I wasn't even thinking and I was just, why didn't I do that first? I mean, I'm sure that even for you guys who are avid prayers and you pray all the time, I'm sure there are times where you have forgotten to pray first, or I think it's so important to really give that credit to God, that he knows best, that he will see us through, that if it's in his will, he doesn't want to deny us of things, but he does want to hear from us. He does want to have a relationship with us. So I hope that this helps somebody to really reflect on the words that we say, the things that we think, and just the importance of bringing it to God first and to not downplay that like it's like the last resort on something, because it is only thanks to him. So that's what I have for y'all. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.